I guess it's a little bit funny talking about the growth of the freelance business because, well, freelancer is a kind of like, we used to think about it as a one-person entity, me as a freelancer, you as a freelancer, and then what does it mean to grow your business as a freelancer? Well, maybe I indeed start with a briefly introducing myself, just to explain where I come from with this line of thoughts. Hi, I'm Elizaveta. I do have a very multidisciplinary practice, and I also struggle quite a lot introducing myself. That's why Elina mentioned that my biography was maybe a little bit inconsistent. But for this particular occasion, I chose the really specific set of things that I would like to tell about myself. So I'm a co-founder of the Seed Studio, which I indeed started in 2020, but I had my freelance graphic design practice before that. Since 2018, I was working as just graphic design freelancer in Netherlands. But starting from 2020, I really felt this need of working with more people. And that's when the Seed Studio started, and the whole metaphor of the seed and growth kind of came together for me. That's why it's Seed. I'm also a co-founder of the startup called Common, with this little 2 in the middle. And this is a tech startup which is busy developing a loyalty system for the eco-friendly behavior, particularly focusing on the CO2 emissions. I'm a co-founder of the Moon Gallery Foundation, as you can imagine, and indeed I am mostly known as a curator who is sending art to the moon. Well, the first step of which is sending it to the International Space Station. At least there we have some visitors of our gallery. On the moon, that's, I guess the gallery is going to be there earlier than the first visitor can see it. And I'm also a co-author of the course in the Royal Academy of Arts, my alma mater. This particular selection of my affiliation doesn't really tell you much about, what do I do there? But as you can notice, there is this big co sign all over. And that's more or less the point which I'm trying to make. And a little bit of my contradiction always, like I've never worked for a company, like I've never been employed by other company. And it's not like something that I'm proud of, but it's just something which happened somehow. Like it never crossed my mind to be employed somewhere on the first place, but also after I moved to Netherlands due to, for example, my visa, I actually really needed to set up a company and be a freelancer. And so it's, in a way, it never was a choice, but at the same time, as you can see, I do really like working with other people. This is something that is necessary for my creativity, productivity, learning, and also something that I've been trained to do because, of course, as a graphic designer, you do need to collaborate with a lot of people. And yeah, I was kind of like trying to speculate about like, why do we become the freelancers on the first place? And of course, like this cool idea before you become a freelancer that you can be independent, have a freedom, can choose your own clients and have the diverse experiences. But well, we all know how that goes, especially at the beginning when you start with it. And then, and that was my feeling when I started. When I just like registered my company, I was like, oh my God, I need to order a pencils with the name of my company. And then the next thing I knew, the pencils was the list of my problems. So, and collaborations, they kind of became the answer to this struggle of mine, because I think working is what I call a kind of vacuum, like when you just sit by your own in front of your laptop and trying to come up with something, is really not healthy and really not beneficial for anyone, because we grow and learn only when we have environment around us, only when we have other people. And this is always good to ask for advice. collaborations do save time and they do bring money. And well, this is something that I kind of learned on the experience, and maybe I will elaborate a little bit more with a particular examples. Yeah, they give possibilities for both professional and personal growth, and maybe even, I don't mean like maybe professional and personal can be kind of combined, but also for the business growth, because they give a lot of possibilities and open a lot of doors. And I think it's just fun to also collaborate with other people. I think it's important, like what for me was important to acknowledge, that collaboration, it's not just a good deal. It's kind of a structure or relationship which you have to think about as a kind of within the time frame, or not within the time frame, but like progressively developing throughout time. They can start really small. They can start from just doing a small thing together, which is always, of course, helpful, because then you can learn a little bit about the person with who you want to collaborate. But then you really have to see it as a relationship. And this is, I think, very important for me, the principles for the successful collaboration. And I've been developing them for myself throughout time and kind of learning them. They're not coming from any scientific idea, but this is something that I've been developing throughout time on my own practice. It is important to identify and value the skills of each other. And I think it's even, especially if you work with businesses which are kind of neighboring businesses. For example, I do have a background as a graphic designer, but at the moment, most of the job which I do, for example, for the Seed Studio, are related to the web development, and since recently app development. So I mostly do coding, which allows me to collaborate both with graphic designers, where I help them to develop their, like if they're designing websites. Coming from the graphic design background, I can judge how well are they designed, particularly for web. But also I can collaborate with more advanced programmers as a graphic designer. And then if within this collaboration, you really identify these skills that you want to focus on and these unique qualities that each of you can bring in this collaboration, it is really, at least for me, I see it as a really easy way to kind of turn your competitors into your collaborators, because there is not that much conflict of interest anymore. I do work a lot, for example, with the graphic design studios in the Netherlands, and there is never a question. There is never a question of competition. But well, I go to it later on. But there is always a question of clearly acknowledging the contribution of each party and like being really honest and fair about who does what. I jumped a little bit through the second point with the equally beneficial, and this is something that I learned a lot through the Moon Gallery, because of course Moon Gallery, it is a non-profit organization, and it is easy to invite people to collaborate with it, because it is an exciting idea, a big idea, also what Anna was talking about in the previous presentation. It is an idea for which it's easy to get people excited, to bring them on board. But at the same time, what I see throughout time, if people don't benefit from being part of it, if they are not, if they don't clearly see how they personally benefit from that, it is very difficult to keep them on board for a long time. Of course, people would be happy to maybe support or do a favor or like participate in a small thing. But unless me as a, for example, project manager, really think through how like their journey within the project, then those people leave very soon. But so this is something, if you are the initiator of the collaboration, this is something that is important to think about, how to make it fair and equal. And I think it's also an important part of it to assess this equality from time to time, because what started a while ago maybe was fair back then, but throughout the time maybe things changed, and maybe the parties within this collaboration started feeling different about, for example, how much time or effort they put within this collaboration. And the last aspect, it is good to write agreements. And this is also coming from my practice of, for example, especially at the beginning of my career, doing some pro bono things or doing some things where I would do a job for promotion, etc. And even, you know, when you have kind of a contract or working with a client for certain money, that is way easier actually to assess whether this was a fair relationship or not, because you can say how much time you spend and how much money you have to be paid for the certain time. But when it's coming to these collaborative things or things that you do in kind, it is very important, in my opinion, to make written agreements about that no one regrets afterwards about such a collaboration. So yes, for myself, I do collaborate because I need collaborations for inspiration, getting new ideas, brainstorming, learning new skills, getting feedback, etc. I absolutely cannot actually come up with idea on my own, which is maybe not a problem for some of you, or like I can come up with with ideas, but it takes way longer. I always prefer have someone with who I can kind of brainstorm together or discuss this idea, get different opinions about it. It does improve the quality of my services, because especially with a seed studio, it is kind of a studio which is a collaboration of different freelancers, and more people I bring on board, more services I can offer as a kind of studio co-founder, better quality of the services I can offer, and also, of course, I can learn myself new skills through the collaborations. Finding and establishing long-term relationship with client through collaborations is, I think it's very diverse, and maybe I would like to stop for a little longer here and make a few examples, because I think we are really not kind of exploring all possibilities in there, because of course, a very simple example, and this is something that I used to do. I was offering just some people who I know, my friends and people from my network, a certain percentage if, for example, they would refer me to a client. And then if that was a successful contract, then they would get also profit from that, which is a very straightforward but also functional way to collaborate. Both parties have their benefits from it, and the amount of effort put it by people is kind of equal to the reward that I would offer for that. But also, of course, there could be more complex ways. For example, I used to work with I used to live in Netherlands, and I had a Dutch accountant, and she is brilliant actually. If someone needs an accountant, in Netherlands, I can totally refer her. But that was a thing, like I really respected her as a professional, and she was really great for the small beginning businesses. And because I used to study, like just graduated, and later teach in a school, I knew a lot of people who were just starting businesses and needed an accountant. So I would refer those people to her, and other way around. For example, she would have a lot of people coming to her who are starting their businesses just from other kind of pool, and then she would refer them to me because I could help them to establish their identity, to help to build their websites, etc. So this is kind of a different collaboration with different way to do it without involving the literal money, but involving kind of different currency as a mutually beneficial relationship. And there can be so much more of things to think about in this field. And I really think that, for example, I haven't yet explored all the possibilities. There are really some fields, for example, like I'm really bad with the social media. I really don't like doing that. And I'm really looking for good ideas. How can I establish collaboration with some social media professionals who on the mutually beneficial conditions can help me with that. But of course, it's really, it takes a creativity, it takes thinking and caring about your collaborator to establish a successful relationship. And yeah, the last point is that I truly believe that since I started actively embracing collaborations, that made my practice way more sustainable, because for once I have a kind of flow of clients coming from all these different collaboration sources. And then I do have a network of professionals with who I can work in a case if I need help in one or other project. I know who to reach out to. And because this is this special collaboration relationship, they also kind of prioritize, for example, this is also a part of this agreement or collaborationship, that those people prioritize my requests. And yeah, that really helps, especially when you have very diverse activities that you engage in. Let me see. Yes, where to look for collaboration shapes. Some of them, of course, just tend to happen, like what happened with me in the Moon Gallery. I started collaborating with my ex-schoolmate, and we came up with this whole project together. Well, didn't came up, but developed, let's say, this whole project together. But sometimes I do believe it is necessary to actively look for collaborations, and it is actually easier than even to look, for example, for clients, because I often see this, especially on the social media like Facebook groups, etc., often see that tons of people to find clients, and then they start this kind of or LinkedIn would make a message saying like, hello, I would like to connect. And I think of course they're looking for people who might be interested in their services, but then this whole kind of dialogue, it always feels very awkward in a way for both sides, because people don't develop a clear message what they want. They feel that maybe saying, okay, I want you as a client, do you need my services, is a little bit too pushy or awkward to say. And then it really becomes like this investment of time, and then you're not getting outcome. While if you want to collaborate with someone, I think it's way easier to approach people. You can just, well, actually write that I think that you're really doing cool stuff and I would like to do something together. Of course, it takes indeed thinking and suggesting what exactly you can do together and how exactly your relationship can look, because sometimes I do get a little bit confusing requests. Like I got a request from the architecture studio saying, can we collaborate somehow? But that's because on my LinkedIn profile, I am formally employed with the interior and architecture department, but they didn't do their research very well. So they don't know that I do kind of have nothing to do with the architecture. But that's obviously my question in return, like how exactly you see this mutual collaboration. Do you have an idea, like what do you need, what I might gain from this collaboration? So if you are the one who is proposing it, it is important to think in advance about this. So yeah, I think the places which I use, and I'm actually looking very much forward, I used to choose my working location based on what kind of clients I would like to get. I used to pick collab spaces or kind of like flex desk offices based on that, really looking into what kind of environment is there. And since I now recently moved to Germany and the corona regulations are getting better, I'm again kind of on a search for a new location, especially for the starting businesses. I think it can be really beneficial to work in a good environment. Indeed, such meetings like we're now in, I think it's a really great place to look for collaborations, and it's important to speak up about what do you need and how someone can complement your services. And also starting projects which people want to join. I think that's a great way to collaborate. So let's collaborate, and maybe we can have a little conversation, since we, I think, still have a bit of time, because I'm interested to know what are you doing and how we can collaborate maybe.